Hello, darlings. It is Thursday, and it is time to update our little series called Life's Sardonic Ting. Sarsci's work, work experiences. The tears, the joys, the triumphs, and the failures of Sarsci's career. Anyway, so this is not going to be chronological, but I am just like picking out off of my brain Rolodex, um, highlights of what's been happening in Sarsci's career life of late. Oh, child, where to begin? So audits are the name of the game. Audits, plural. Audits. I was like, you know, I almost wish like audits would be like wham bam, thank you ma'am type of speed. But it's not that way. No, it's not that way. It isn't, and it's unfortunate. So let's dive right into that. So, when the year started, audits started to hound me. Some of the audits are scheduled, so I was prepared for that, obviously, because Sarsci's always trying to anticipate all kinds of mess happening. So, anyway, so she's got like the fire extinguisher ready. Yes, it has been checked, rechecked, and checked some more. Anywho, so the scheduled audits, obviously, Sarsci knows, would be happening. So we prepared for that. My team and I prepared for that. But what I didn't prepare for were like the side audits. What I call side audits are those investigations that are born out of somebody's complaint. So a person would complain, or a coworker would complain, or whoever it is would complain, lodge a complaint at the central investigative area. And, whether the investigator assigned to it, the analyst assigned to it, would think there's merit to the complaint, then they would go through the motions. My gosh. My gosh. I was not prepared for that. I mean, it was kind of funny, but no, it's not funny. A first one is these new equipments that we purchased. We purchased them like, I want to say, within the last 5 years. Purchased, but not utilized or installed or not even turned on. They're still in the box, like literally. Well, okay, fine. The box is like super dusty now, but the equipment is still like in the box. I don't even know what it looks like unboxed. I should probably do like, no, just kidding. No, we'll not be doing that. But the reason for that is the location that they were to be installed. Like they have to have specific locations installed on the campus grounds, and we can't just like randomly. I think that part over there, or like the little mound of dirt over there, or that hillside over there looks good. No, like there has to be serious paperwork that follows this and predates this. Like we have to already submit and get the approval before we even purchase the stupid thing, anything. So, anywho, of course, Sarsci was the lead on that. Got everything in order. And when we were purchasing the piece of equipment, or equipments, there's two of them, we actually indicated to the company, because the company we had purchased from, indicated that they were able to actually, for a fee, able to submit the paperwork to make sure that out of the box, as soon as it's delivered, we can actually install the equipment, and we will be in compliance because it would have an actual like approved permit, right? So obviously we paid. Like, hello, did you say for a fee we can actually purchase this thing, and once delivered we can just install it and then like off to go see the wizard? Um, duh. Why would I want to have to conduct more research and paperwork when you can do it for me for a fee? Fast forward to now, 2023. An investigator from the accreditation company, it's a governmental accreditation body, comes, and they do random checks. They do random checks on the equipment that we have, on the various equipment that we have. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, it's gonna be routine. When I say routine, I mean I have seen this before a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 5, 10 million dozen times. Okay, fine, not 10 million dozen times, but you know what I mean. And at first, the investigator was asking for like the paperwork for the specific equipment, which I had. I had going back 10 years. Don't ask me why. I know, like, literally the memory and like one of the CPUs in my office is like, it's begging me to just give it up. Like, please let me go. No, I'm still waiting for IT to actually give me another CPU. And at the moment, I have 3. Sad face. I know. I know. I did used to have more than that, but that is because I've less now, because I have moved all the records digitally into a type of in-house cloud. So now I'm down to 3 CPUs. I know. But I mean, they're useful. Anyway, back to the investigator. So everything was going well and all the paperwork. And I was like, do you want the hard copy? Because I have those as well. Or do you want that digital? She was like, well, however you're going to give it to me, that would make my work faster. And I'm like, girl, choose door number 1 or door number 2. Honestly, like, don't make it hard for me. While you're doing researching whatever you need to research, I got work to do. I mean, I don't have time to just sit here, stare at you while you peruse the pages. Like, anyway, mind you, I also had interviews today. So anyway, lots and lots of juggling going on. Well, I think I've had interviews since the start of the year. I've had like 5 or 6 interviews a day. So, anyway, about that. Various positions, not just one position. Thank you very much. Jeez, I'm not that bad. But, so going back to the investigator from just a few months back. And she was like, I did say this is not chronological, right? Okay, cool. Just saying, just making sure you're still listening. I was like, okay, I'll leave you to your work. You know where my office is. Whatever. Then she comes inside and she's like, oh, well, that's right. I have noted on here the 2, newly purchased equipment that you guys have. And you have now you have had installed for some time. And I was just wondering, can I see the permits for those? And I'm like, well, let me go check. Looking in the digital, in the digital library. And I'm like, okay, here it is. And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you have the updated one? And I'm like, what do you mean? That is the latest one. And she's like, oh, but this is from 2020, whatever, pre pandemic. And I was like, uh huh. Did you see the one after that, though? And the one after that? And she's like, yeah, it's supposed to be renewed annually. And I said, not according to your rules. Your rules state it's triennial. And she's like, wait. And I'm like, okay, let me pull up the rule, honestly. I'm thinking in my head, they should be sending investigators or whoever they are, inspectors, I should say, to like work sites or different like companies that where they would need to go through their licensing and permits and things like that. But like, make sure that the person you're sending knows your house rules. And if they're not aware, Google is free, honey. Google is free. Like, oh. So the investigator comes back and was like, oh, so yeah. So it looks like for this type of equipment, you're supposed to have this like permit annually. And then I'm like, hang on, you're making me lose my train of thought. I am almost to the page where I'm going to show you for this specific equipment, it's triennial. And honestly, the inspector was just like, okay, look, I'm gonna have to ding you. And I'm like, ding who? Ding what? Ding bat? What? It was like, what are you calling Darna? Ding ang bato. But just saying. She was like, yeah, because you don't have the updated permit. And I said, okay, here it is. I hand her the rule book. I found the page. Honestly, I feel like a Sarsci works best, or some of the time works best when she's under pressure like that. And I was like, okay, so here I highlighted it. She's like, okay. And then she was so serious about it. She goes, where did you get this? And I said, oh, from the website, your website, the company that you work for, the governmental agency. She said, oh, I've never come across this. And I said, okay, I feel like we're going to come to an impasse. How about this? In the essence of saving time, would you mind just placing a call to your superior and asking them if you've updated the rules for these types of equipment? And she was like, yeah, but in the meantime, I still have to ding you. No. I'm like, girl, first of all, you need to stop with the ding, ding, ding. Okay? Because I am not in the wrong here. You are. You're the one who doesn't have a grasp of the rules of your actual agency. It's not like, it's not a crime to not know. I'm telling you, you should probably, and likely should, call up your boss and ask your boss. Or like I said, I can show it to you where I got it from your own freaking website. And she's like, are you sure that's our website? Is it like a secure, is it HTTPS? And I'm like, girl, okay, now I know you're not trying to call me stupid indirectly. She's like, I'm just saying because, a lot of times, a lot of these industries and businesses, they you know, they try to give you the runaround. They try to like show you um, false. She said false websites that mimic like real governmental websites, and I'm like, okay, between the time when you were talking to me about not knowing about this rule, the triennial rule, and me pulling up the rule from this page that I'm showing you from your own website, your your actual employer's website. That was a total of what? Within 10 minutes? Do you think I can formulate and put online a website, a working website within 10 minutes? I'm not a genius or close to one. I'm just very persistent. And I like making myself look good with my work. Like, if I'm going to make myself look bad, it's because of my own doing and not somebody else, honey. Just saying. And she's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry. This argument is going to go on all night long. What do I look like? Lionel Richie's twin sister? No. Ew. You either go and do what you need to do, or you can do your research. Because you're obviously not trying to call your boss for whatever reason." I would be like, you know what? Let me just go check in with my boss. Since my boss gets paid more money, so they can do the research for me while I'm on the road or like I'm on the site, you know, that I have to inspect. And she was like, "Oh no, I really don't think that it's necessary for me to check in with my boss and actually ask them about this rule that you found that you think is correct." And I said, "Girl, if this rule is not correct, it should not be up on your website. That is false. And you're a governmental agency, such as I am in one. I mean, different branches, but I'm just saying, get it together. Together." And she was like, "Oh, well, you know what? For some reason, I don't know why, she just blurted out, 'Oh, I think we come from the same country.'" And I'm like, "And how is that relevant to this matter? Am I supposed to just give you what? A clean sweep? Like a free ride? Because I don't do stupid. I really don't do stupid. I mean, I have been stupid a lot of times in my life. And like I said, if you're going to make me look stupid, it's because of my own fault, not somebody else's. So it's like, what is the relevance of that statement? Oh, I think we're from the same country. And, girl, obviously I'm from the side that actually has use of all of her brain cells. Like, all of my axons and dendrites are talking to each other. Pistons firing all the time. Like, let's go." Ooh, honestly. And then she's like, okay, okay. I have to regroup. Because I think, yeah, I think I might be thinking about a different equipment. And I'm like, "Girlfriend, you're getting me all fired up when you're not even sure the equipment that you're actually seeking a permit for. I'm sorry, I need to see your badge again." And she was like, "Why?" "Because I need to be certain. I need to be more certain that you actually are from the government that you present yourself to be, from the government department that you present yourself to be." And she's like, "Well, this is my boss's name." Okay, so you know your boss's name, you know your boss's number, but you can't call your boss to check on the fucking rule? Ooh. She's like, "Well, can you just check since you're like close to the computer?" Girl, do I look like I'm gonna do your job for you? I mean, I already gave you an out. Like, I'm trying to help you, but I'm not going to help you and do your job for you because you get paid all kinds of more than I do. Like, buhuku money. Let's not. Anyway. And then she says, you know what? You're not being helpful. So I said, look, ma'am, whatever your name is. I'm sure in some way and somehow you were able to ascend the ladder because you're a good worker. You're persistent. You anticipate. You're a hard worker. And she said, oh, thank you for the compliment. Yeah, but this one that follows that is not a compliment. Wherever that fire was, where you're like a go-getter, you think on your feet, you're like snap of a finger, you already got like 4 or 5 tabs in your head open, trying to critically think and assess the situation and whatever else you need in this position that you have, you're definitely not showing me that. And I'm definitely not going to hire you. At all. At all. Absolutely not. And she's like, oh, but you just complimented me. Forget the compliment. I'm trying to help you out. Whatever is going on with you, you need to focus on the work. Like with me, I know people have storms in their lives that they have to overcome daily. But if they can focus on the job at hand, I'd greatly appreciate it because I have storms in my life. And plural storms. And I'm still functional. So that bar, that same bar that I have for myself, I use on everybody else. And that bar is taller than me. I'm just saying, get it together. Because we all have shit. We all get tired, but get it together. Because you're creating more jobs for me and more work for me. That's so unnecessary when I'm already trying to help you out. Ugh. So anyway, she did end up leaving for the day. And I rang her up. Well, her office. And spoke to her boss. And we had a brief conversation. It was cordial but brief. The boss was busy. Rightfully so. They are the boss. Anywho, it may not be true for everybody, but this one was, well, yeah. Anywho, long story short, I got the confirmation from her boss that the rule does stand for this particular equipment. And on top of that, I sent an email to the boss and I asked them to please confirm that the conversation we had over the telephone occurred and that they do concur that the rule remains in place. Triennial, not annual. And he did. So when she comes back tomorrow, I already have the email printed out. I'm like, hey girl, here we go. I did the job for you after all. Because, you know, I can multitask. Ugh. Anyway. Ooh. And then I have another story for you. Colleagues. You guys ever have had colleagues where you have in some time in some parts of your experience together, of your working relationship together, you have built rapport, you are cordial to each other, maybe even friendly to each other, and have listened, you know, it may have been one-sided, listen to their angst about the experiences they have had and the work that they perform, and whatever they feel they are being neglected of, or they're being passed over for promotions and things like that. So I have this particular coworker, and very affable. Didn't really have any issues with them when I started there. Whew, a long time ago. Oh gosh, I feel like, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to move to a different department. Like, a different department. Anywho, and this particular coworker, as as far as I could tell, has always been helpful, has always made themselves available if other coworkers had need of them, as much as they can, assist as far as their experiences, right? Will allow them, because not everybody has the same experiences together. So again, it's knowledge based. And I did hear from several different people that this particular coworker has tried for years to promote, but I never actually gave much thought to it. Like, it wasn't like something that I kept in the back of my head. Like, why is this candidate not being promoted, or are they being passed over, or is it that they just don't do well in interviews? There are wonderful, hardworking, very, very smart workers who freeze at interviews, like freeze, like they practically can't remember their names. Freeze, yeah, and unfortunately they lose, the opportunity because they're unable to get past that wall when they're interviewing. And there are those who interview well, really well, very articulate. They seem to listen to the questions. They seem to know a lot of office applications and things like that, but are not truly committed to working. Yes, yes, yes. Like, they spend their time hopping from one office to another, just chit chatting away the rest of the office hours. I mean, honestly, or they don't show up to work, or when they do show up, it's like half of the day is already gone, honestly. Or when they do show up, they are ill prepared, and or they are spreading rumors about people. Well, in line with that, our person who seems to have been, at least in their minds, passed over for opportunities to promote, when the particular position that they wanted to promote to actually opened up, it was like industry wide, like in our, I would say, because it's governmental, so we share it with other departments, other industries, government industries, government departments, those large main departments. So anyway, when it opened, I happened to chance upon it, and and I notified the colleague. And I said, "Oh, I realized that you have been waiting for such and such, and just wanted to let you know that I chanced upon it, and you have like a window of 1 week to submit your application for it, because for us to promote, we still have to apply, and submit all the pertinent paperwork, resume, whatever you experience, all that good stuff. And hopefully, you snag an interview, and hopefully you do well in your interview, and you are called and are offered the position." So I notified my colleague about it. They were very happy about the news that the exam was open. And then they also talked to their manager, and along with their manager, actually walked to my office and asked if I could help them out. And I said, "With what?" I said, "Well, you know how you're the hiring manager." And I said, "Oh, wait a minute. If I think this is where it's going, where you think I'm going to pull your application from the stack of applications and put in a good word for you, I'm not doing that. Everybody has the same, or should get the same opportunity, right? Um, to have their applications reviewed accordingly without anybody tampering with anybody's applications. Like, oh, I know so and so, can you maybe look up their like application and let me know if if they're missing anything, I'm a little or something. No, I don't do that. So they wanted me to actually help them out with their resume, which, as best as I could, I did. And then also they had supporting documents that they needed to affix to their application, so I helped them attach those because they didn't know how to. And then answering the questions on the application, I would read out the question to them, and if they looked like they had like the glossed over look on their face, I would post the question differently so they can give me the answer. And so anyway, we were able to complete the application. That took like over 2 or 3 hours because I had to repeat the questions sometimes 4 or 5 times differently each time, so they can like understand and they can internalize and give me the actual factual answer to the question. So fast forward to a few months later, after the application submission, that colleague received a response about their application, and the response was in the form of a letter that unfortunately they fell short in like the years of experience that was required. They fell short. So the colleague felt some type of way that one, the analyst, whoever it was that reviewed their application, did not know how to do math, basically, like add the years, right? Or subtract. And then two, which was a heavier subject, was that Sarsci. Sarsci intentionally misled them with the line of questions that that they answered, and I'm like, wait, what? Like the manager and the colleague spoke to me about it and was like, I think if you had posed the question this way versus having posted, whatever, however way it was, I think we would have answered it differently and we would have probably gotten a higher score. And I'm like, that's just the application. You still had to take the exam. The exam questions I have nothing to do with. But obviously, as it contains in the letter, you don't have the years of experience, the minimum number of years experience required to even get your application through. That's not up to Sarsci. You were already here before Sarsci got here. Hello. And the manager and the colleague, the manager being really, really supportive of this colleague and is practically going to throw themselves at the fire for this colleague. I mean, I'm not here to judge, okay? Whatever it is. If you think that you're going to, fall on the sword for this person, handle it. I'm not doing it. No. Thank you. But no, thank you. I took took their grievance to my actual direct superior, who, once they found out about the grievance, they actually called me into the office, the principal's office, I know, with the colleague and the other manager who had just told my superior about the grievance that they have. And so I said, okay, what are your grievance? Like, lay out each individual grievance that you have. If you have that, list it off so that we can go through every single one and hopefully answer each one and hopefully come to a resolution. Because there seems to be some confusion here. And you're assuming there's been an infraction committed against your subordinate. And for whatever reason, I feel right now in this moment, I feel you also have some personal feelings attached to that you're projecting onto me. All kinds of energy coming from your side of the room. And my colleague was like, no, what I'm trying to tell you is you need to do better at your job. Like, if you're going to help somebody, like, fill out their application, they actually don't sound like that, by the way. If you're going to help somebody, like, fill out their application, you need to actually, like, read every question correctly. And if you have to read it back to the person who's seeking your help in, like, filling out the application, you should read it correctly and or post it in a way that they would understand the question so they can give you the correct answer. And I'm like, okay, I did. There were 50 questions on that application. Supplemental questions, excuse you. I said supplemental. Took me 3 hours to go through each one with your subordinate. And you were there. You couldn't offer a single fucking thing that was useful. You were standing next to your subordinate as I had to go through and rewrite in my head the question so I can verbally give it to your subordinate so they can answer it. Because the questions as they are laid out on the actual application, you and your subordinate couldn't answer for shit. So don't be throwing that at me like, girl, you should have learned to read. 1, you should have learned to read. 2, you should have learned to fucking hear. Because I ain't here for that shit. And the manager was like, oh, now you're talking to me like you got all kinds of energy. And I'm like, who gave me the energy first? All kinds of energy coming from you people. Did I give you the energy? No. But you're standing here on your soggy little facts. Like, if you're going to create something, change the narrative, make sure I am dead. Because if it includes me, you have no idea how clearly I remember a lot of things, if not everything. I remember what you were wearing that day and the cologne you were wearing. Don't fuck with me. Spent 3 hours of my time when I still had shit I needed to do, and you're coming at me with this. You are his manager. You should have been first in line to help out your subordinate. No. You had to come to Sarsci. I mean, hello. What the fuck were you doing? Because for 3 hours you were just standing there. You did not give anything to me. Not a word. I would look at you like, hey, like affirmation or something. Is this question correct? Or is my rephrasing of the question correct? You gave me nothing. Nothing. I had to ask you several times, what is the employee number of this person? And you couldn't even remember it. I remember all the employee numbers of everybody in the department, including your subordinate and yourself. I'm just saying, So if I happen to have not been helpful because of my own doing, because I did not truly try to help your subordinate, you have my apologies. But I know I didn't do that. I know that having spent 3 hours with your subordinate, helping them answer the supplemental questions, all 50 of them, to get their application submitted, because otherwise you couldn't submit it. You had to answer each one. And then you're coming to me like it's my fault that they didn't have the years of experience? What were you doing then? Why aren't you on the phone? If you have all kinds of energy like this, why aren't you on the phone with the analysts? So right here in this letter, if you have any questions, please contact whatever analyst. You should have been on the phone with the analyst then, asking them, excuse me, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But no, instead, you are here with me, giving me all kinds of energy. Like, I'm not about to give you back that kind of energy. Child. Who died and made you my manager? Nobody. You have nothing to add to this, like, equation, to this situation. Nothing. Instead of you coming to me when your subordinate had come to you with this letter, you should have counseled your subordinate. That is your job as manager. You don't run to your actual superior to cry to them because your subordinate cried to you. Your first plan of action should have been, okay, let's sit down. Let's look over and review this letter that you're presenting. And then, let's assess the situation. Like, what are our options here? No. You wanted to cry. I'm like, unfortunately, I don't have any, like, milk bottles here lying around. And then the manager was like, oh, you're trying to be funny. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not trying to be funny. I have yet to be funny. I have yet to be funny. Do you see me laughing? No. Don't call yourself a manager when you got to be a wuss about everything. And I'm like, in this kind of energy, if you were to give that to somebody else of your same gender, you probably get slapped in the face. I'm just saying. Because if if this is the kind of energy you're going to give me, and we're going to continue to have this kind of energy in our day-to-day dealings, well, then I have options too. AKA, you're creating a hostile work environment for me. And I document everything. Don't you even think about it. So from that day on, they actually would not speak to me anymore. And they would only speak to me as needed. Like, it has to be an immediate need, right? Which is great. Because I'm like, and then a few months later, and I don't know what hell else like broke in their brains, they had submitted a grievance about Sarsci singling out specific people, aka one person, and not providing them with their time cards. And I was like, what? Who is this joker now? That's like got so much time on their hands. Honestly. So much time in their hands. But I will say this, and I do advise this to everybody, all my colleagues. If you have a grievance and you feel that you are standing in just solid, hard to knock facts you stand on that and you take that however far you can take it, to the ends of the universe if you need to. But if you are presenting these ghost narratives born out of your jealousy, or maybe sour feelings towards a colleague, I suggest you go to talk to a therapist or your best friend, or I don't know, go to the gym and like get on a treadmill and walk it off. Walk it off. Walk it off. Anyway, I was just like, huh? And look, I was laughing about it when I found out, and then come to find out it was the same manager and the same colleague who actually had submitted that grievance. And I'm like, well, hell, but they were just waiting for something to complain about me for. Just like, okay, anyway. So immediately when that was presented to me, I asked my director, because I'd mentioned this before, our campus is full of cameras. It's just full of cameras. And we don't have tapes that you can erase. It's all in the cloud. So anyway, and it just keeps storing it. So supposedly there was this specific instance where I'd stolen their time card. And I was like, what? And it was so funny because immediately when I was told the time frame and the date when this happened, I left early that day. I mean, I had like a time off request, and that was approved like several months before. And on that date. And of course, my superior was like, okay, we need to show proof. And I'm like, okay, let me get to my desk. Let me print it out. And I'm like, here you go. Who signed it? You did. When did you sign it? 2 months prior to this alleged incident. What time was I supposed to have left? This time. Let me see. Let me pull up my time records. Ooh, look at that. Sarsci left 2 hours prior to this alleged incident. Then I said, and better yet, let's pull up the camera, the video. And my superior was like, oh, you're right. And I'm like, hello, how can you forget? The only areas we have no cameras are in our patient areas and the restrooms. Everywhere you go, it's cameras everywhere. And there are audios too, just saying. My superior's like, ooh, let me go check. So he was like in his office checking, blah, 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 blah. So he checked an hour before the incident supposedly had happened, because they filled out an affidavit stating that, yeah, this happened and it was during this time, and the witness was their manager. But anyway, whatever. I'm like, okay. And then so they've pulled up the footage an hour before, an hour after, and lo and behold, who was it that was actually removing and did not replace their own time card? The person who complained. And I said, okay, see, now it's the second time. I think now any misgivings I had of the first time when they complained about Sarsci and Sarsci's inability to learn to read and articulate and to assist and to understand written material, I think it's time now for me to protect myself. So filled out an affidavit, and I sent it to our central investigative um, body. I recently received the actual letter notifying me that the investigation had indeed been completed, and that per the investigation and their collected evidence, spoke to witnesses, other witnesses. I'm like, damn, however many witnesses did you have? And anybody else who may shed light on this narrative that's being pushed forward about Sarsci. They concluded that the narrative was wrong, the accusation was wrong, and they are actually suspending without pay the two colleagues. I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy to see people not have a paycheck. Certainly a reprimand was needed, like, counseling or something. But I'm not happy that they are not going to be able to have, the amount that they are used to having, right? For the amount of time that they are suspended for. But I also feel like the punitive judgment on this may have been, at least in my mind, may have been harsher than I had anticipated. But perhaps this will help mitigate further false narratives against not just myself, but other colleagues who feel like I just need to blame someone. And you know what? Let's just go blame such and such, so and so. Hey, hey, hey. Honestly. And it's very sad. So now I stick to, for the most part, my direct report, the team under me. I still regard my colleagues how I have always regarded them, my colleagues. I'm cordial to them, to both of the people who were suspended, because this happened a few months back. And even though they no longer wish to meet my gaze when we pass each other in the hallways or in other like public areas, that's fine. I have no enmity towards them. I feel pity for them because they're unable to assess where they could have made an error and instead decided that they were going to let this feeling of inadequacy fester and blame it on somebody else, aka me. So, having said that, I always wish them the best. I always wish everybody the best. But that doesn't mean that I would continue to take your shit. No. No. You know when they say know your worth? You literally really need to know your worth. And on top of that, you back yourself up with hard, stone cold facts. No emotion, just facts. Sometimes I feel like, you could have been a researcher for like a law office or something. I did work at a law office, but anyway, yeah, just saying. And it's sad. It's just sad. It's sad when I have colleagues who are also managers like myself, who are rightfully or wrongfully are guided by their emotions, like full on emotion. It's like, and maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the experiences I've had in my in the different industries I have worked, or in the different arenas I have worked, that has helped shape me to become more and more objective and more fact based. Not cold, not rigid, still warm, but know that our work and how we interact with each other should always come from a place of truth. And although you leave room for grace, you leave room for empathy, you must also remain your strongest ally, yourself, right? When all else fails and everybody else walks away, you must always remember that you are your own strongest ally. And if you have all of your facts correct, nobody can hurt you, nobody can go against you, because you have all your facts correct. Now, if your facts are like born out of somebody else's gossip, ooh, I suggest you just, yeah, you put that on a compost bin. Just saying. Just saying. So, anywho, those are the two major ones that have happened in the last few months that I had actually written down on my notes here that I want to share with you guys. What do you call this? That I guess I've been forgetting because I have been doing the streaming of the new area season 2, Saccharate Caverns in Dragonflight, Eltharian's Embers. Anywho, so there's that, and then more to come, obviously. And I'm glad that I have had time to update you on life's sardonic tang. Sarsci's work life. Uh-huh. And then also, you know what? I just realized that my latest vlog, is it vlog? On the series Little Miss Sarsci's Fabulous Life. My first time in Paris, just recollecting my time, my first time in Paris. The dang audio failed. Sorry, I'll have to redo it again. But I feel like I should include more info on it now. Now that I'm redoing it, I know. Anywho, as I always say, be kind to each other, darlings. But don't be stupid, okay? Just saying. Throw glitter in today's face and every day's face. Every storm that you are currently battling, know that there's always somebody out there who doesn't know your name, may not know you exist, but you may just be a part of their prayer list. So, just keep that in mind. You're loved. Do things that make you happy. Be gentle with each other. And always journey in gratitude. All right, darlings. I don't know if I'm going to have time or I'm going to have energy to stream a little bit after this one on my Stream-a-Ling series. If I do, then I will see you then. If not, I'll have to do it tomorrow or Saturday. Okay. Well, ciao, ciao. My little eggy boos.